Is a bear market coming soon? It's a question that people ask all the time, and it's an expensive question if the answer is not handled with proper care. It's sort of like fire. Forecasts can light the way if they're used wisely, but they can also burn everything to the ground if you try to handle them without the proper knowledge or planning. I've seen two main ways that advisors and investors try to protect assets when markets feel unstable. The first is gut instinct. It starts with a sense that something just feels off. Then it's justified with headlines, politics, or recent market behavior. The second is a checklist approach. Dozens of indicators watched all at once, and often so complex that by the time that they all align, or enough of them align, the damage is already done. Neither of these approaches reliably works, and neither is it what most long-term investors actually want. There's a difficult truth that feels backwards. Here it is. Trying to time bear markets as a long-term ongoing strategy almost always leads to lower long-term average returns. And this isn't theory, it's statistics. It's proven statistics. Clear studies back this up. And why is that? Well, it's because true bear markets, which are declines of 20% or more, occur far less frequently than people feel like they do. And they're much shorter than the average bull market. Since 1970, on average, they happen every 3 to 5 years. But the spacing is very inconsistent. From 2020 to 2022 was less than 2 years of the bull market. From 2009 to 2020, it's about 11 years. The markets don't follow a calendar, and that's where investors get trapped. They start feeling like it's about time for another one to come around, and that's just not true. Bear markets feel more common than they actually are because smaller declines happen all the time. And even though they're small by comparison, investors feel them deeply, especially those who watch markets regularly. There's pullbacks, which happen 3 to 4 times per year. These are drops of 5 to 10%. Then there's corrections. These are drops of 10 to 20%, and they happen roughly every 18 months on average. These swings are often paired with apocalyptic headlines, confident forecasts, and social media panic. It's natural to ask the question, is it time to go to cash in my portfolio? Is it ever time to go to cash in my portfolio? And it's not an irrational question, but statistically, going to cash during a temporary decline is far more likely to hurt your long-term returns than help. Now, we don't know if it's temporary decline or long-term decline. All of them are temporary. Some are just longer than others. But that's where most investors get it wrong. They try to time what turns out to be short or intermediate term downturns, when what they really need to miss are those longer term downturns, and they don't need to if they're properly aligned with their asset allocation. But if they're going to miss one, those are the ones that matter most. The attempt at managing based on predictions is the main reason that most US investors underperform the S&P 500. So take this common scenario, for example. Markets drop 10%. Fear spikes. Investor goes to cash. Markets rebound 15%. And the investor waits until things, quote unquote, feel normal and buys back in. So if we assume this investor started with $100,000, if he stayed invested, his $100,000 could have grown to $103,500 through this big volatility that ended up in the end. But instead he missed out on $13,500 because now he's stuck at $90,000. He sold out when the market dropped 10%. Compound that over 20 years at an 8% return, that missed opportunity of that $13,500 could have grown to nearly $63,000. Those are lost future gains. Studies show that many of the market's best days happen close to the worst days, and missing just a few of those rebound days can dramatically reduce long-term returns. The numbers get huge when we start talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions. This is a perfect example of why regular market timing doesn't work, even for disciplined investors. So, what if we stray from the world of averages to the real world of bear markets, like the actual bear market of 2000 to 2002, or 2008 to 2009? These take years to fully recover, and they can alter retirement plans, income, and risk tolerance. Sometimes they won't hit another high for for 5 or even up to 7 years we've seen in the past. So the answer isn't ignoring risk, it's about investment risk management, done wisely. Here's the secret most investors never internalize. If your portfolio is properly structured from the beginning, you can reach your long-term goals without depending on avoiding bear markets at all. Asset allocation, aligned with your time horizon, your cash needs, and your psychological tolerance, historically outperforms trying to jump in and out of markets. So remember, market timing tries to avoid discomfort or it tries to get rich quick. Asset allocation accepts volatility but controls damage. Controlling damage matters more than predicting headlines. But money management comes down to what you personally want to see happen in your portfolio. Some investors would gladly take the chance of avoiding a bear market, even if it means they might have to give up some of their long-term average return. While asset allocation is the best place to start with this plan, there's also a place for system-based dynamic risk management. Certainty doesn't exist when making predictions, but statistics exist, and probabilities can be reasonably estimated. Over the years, I've tracked a rules-based set of fundamental and technical bear market indicators. These aren't gut feelings, they're not political narratives or biases, they're not social media hype. The thresholds are high enough to avoid constant false alerts, but they're sensitive enough to catch elevated risk early in many bear markets. Now, will these indicators catch a bear market before it begins? No, probably not. Will they produce false or uncertain signals sometimes? Yes. The goal isn't perfection. It's probability stretched over many years. The goal is to cut out the worst part of bear markets, which typically tend to happen in their second half, and in fact, more specifically, in their final third. The game is about playing the odds when they're in your favor. It's about recognizing when risk is rising enough to consider adjustments before the worst damage occurs. Now, here's a question that doesn't get asked as often, but it's just as important. How do you know when a bear market is over and a bull market is beginning? This is often overlooked, but just as important as recognizing the risk going in. Markets feel broken at the bottom. A bull market is not obvious when it's starting. Pessimism is high, recency bias dominates, people expect the same thing to happen tomorrow that happened yesterday. By the time things feel normal, much of the early bull market gains are gone, and those early gains are often some of the strongest of the cycle. So without a rules-based system, fear keeps you out too long. Caution turns into opportunity cost, and being careful quietly then becomes expensive. A disciplined framework is a strong balance between long-term buy and hold asset allocation and dynamic risk management. At the end of the day, this isn't about forecasts. It's not calling tops and bottoms or reacting to headlines. It's about knowing what you're risking by being in or out of the market, because there's risks to both. It's about knowing why you're making a change and being at peace with the outcome, no matter what it is, because you planned ahead. Markets will always test patience. That much is true, but history rewards those who prepare more than those who try to predict in the moment. And preparation looks different for everyone, but it always starts with a system. Whether you stick to long-term asset allocation or you implement modest rules-based risk management, consistency and having a system matter more than getting every call right. If you're looking for a guide, I welcome you to take control of your financial journey with the Wealth Expedition membership. This is your step-by-step roadmap to building wealth, mastering investing, and making confident financial decisions. I hope to see you inside. You'll find the link in the description. And if you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.